Good morning, everybody. I think we better get you on your feet for a minute. Wake up, we gotta shake out all this data. Get the data out. Let's move it a bit. That's right, we're gonna move from numbers, facts and figures to start thinking about the people who we're working with. I wish I could just give you all like an injection of caffeine. It's still early. I'm not a morning person, so this is torture. But that's good. Hey! So before you sit down, how many people have been a service user of a neighborhood house? If you've been a service user, put up your hand. So we're just doing more research, Mew and Sean, more research here. So, you know, our facts and our research in Canada may also bear out here. How many of you have been a volunteer? Okay. So lots of volunteers in the room. And how many of you who are here today are board members or here as a sort of a governance level of your organization? Board members, okay. And how many are staff? Working as staff? Or volunteers? Okay, good. So we've got a great variety of experience in this room. You've experienced being service users, volunteers, board members. So I'm hoping that as Shelley and I talk a bit about our project, you'll find yourself perhaps in the work that we're talking about. Because we know that this is an international movement and that there's so much that we have in common, so we're hoping you'll find yourself in that. So have a seat, and I'll try and keep you awake, and then Shelley for 15 minutes, and then Shelley will take over. So my name is Karen Larcombe. I am no longer the Executive Director of South Vancouver Neighbourhood House. I wanted to just correct that. I retired after 20 years of being the Executive Director just a couple of months ago. So it's still fresh in my mind, but I'm at this point between jobs, hoping that the next job will just be looking after my grandson. But you never know, right, what's going to be needed. I was really moved by the call to action on the first day. And, you know, while I'm in my little hiatus right now and in a little bubble, I'm reminded that, you know, I came into this work because the same reason all of you did, because we feel passionate about change and we believe in social justice, and I feel compelled to make a difference. And so I'm back on the stage after 2 months, which is kind of weird, but here it goes. I'm going to give you a little overview of South Van Neighbourhood House, first of all, to give you a context for the work that we're doing with seniors. As Mew said, there's about 14 neighbourhood houses in Vancouver. We are in the southeast corner of the city. We have neighbourhood houses in our part of the world are a little smaller than they are in many places. So we have a budget of $4 million, which makes us one of the bigger ones. So we have lots of smaller types of organizations, very neighbourhood-based, very place-based, very all about sort of bringing the community in and helping them get involved. We're also in one of the highest immigrant neighborhoods. In the southern part of the city, housing's a little bit cheaper, a little bit more space, bigger houses, and we're very attractive to families with multiple generations. And because of that, the way we've been working, like all of you respond to your local neighborhood. All of the work that we do has really had that newcomer lens applied to it. And so as you'll see, as we're talking about our Seniors Hub project, it's been a big feature of the work that we've been doing is to engage that immigrant community. Digging down a little deeper, the demographics of our neighborhood with seniors is about 14% of the population is over the age of 65. Well, we're an aging population too, and we know that that number is going to climb. 84% of our seniors are born outside of Canada, and 65% speak a language other than English at home. And we know with many older adults, what they speak at home is what they speak in the community. And so we've had to work very intentionally to reduce barriers to those older adults who do not speak English. 15% of the seniors that we have in our neighborhood live alone. So we know we have a lot of isolation and loneliness. And this is kind of the context within which we've started our project. The Seniors Hub began in 2010 with 4 different funders meeting with a group of neighborhood houses to start a conversation about how can we all work differently with this aging population, recognizing that it's not going to be sustainable to have a traditional funding model where they fund us, we deliver services. With this increasing population, this dramatic rise that's going to happen, they wanted to experiment and find some new ways of working. So they challenged us as South Vancouver Neighbourhood House, an area of the city where there were a lot of immigrant seniors and a lot of seniors, to take on this task of developing a new approach to working with older adults. So because I was at the project at its very beginning, I'm going to talk about the development of this new model that we're working with. And Shelley, my colleague, is going to talk about the capacity building work with the newcomers that are part of the project. So I began the development of the project with a very comprehensive consultation in the community. We went to all the different aspects of the community. We went to the faith groups, we went to the community organizations, we went to residents groups, other community centers, to talk about what they were experiencing either as older adults or as organizations in the community in terms of issues that seniors were facing. We also talked about, well, what do you bring to the table as potential partners in working together so that we can improve the outcomes or the impact of our work for the older adults? We recognized early on that we needed to have a really good evaluator to help us with this development of this project. We wanted to learn as we went along. We wanted to make sure if we needed to course correct, we could. So we developed a partnership with UBC's Hip Health and Mobility, which is a research think tank that focuses on capacity of older adults as they're aging. And together with Hip Health and Mobility, the funders, and this group of organizations and seniors, we started to develop an idea and a vision. And what we envisioned was a networked model. And none of this is new. I mean, this isn't rocket science, right? We're already all doing this as neighborhood houses. But what we felt was new in the way that we were working is, and maybe some of you are already doing this, but we weren't, is we were going to really formalize this partnership and this relationship. Not just have these nice kind of casual partnerships, but we were going to actually formalize in a structure how we were all going to work together with seniors leading that partnership to work differently in our community. And central to that vision was really reaching out to the leadership in our immigrant communities, the low-income and other vulnerable seniors, those seniors with chronic health problems, older adults that tend to be the recipients of service, but not leading or having the opportunity to bring their voice into what happens around the issues that they care about. And what we really wanted to achieve in all of this was we really wanted to reduce isolation. We wanted to have meaningful community participation, not necessarily participation where they came in and just set the table in the morning. Not that that's not useful, but we wanted to see how we could deepen the meaning of participation for some of those older adults. And we wanted ultimately to improve access to all kinds of resources in our community, particularly for those that were really isolated and not coming out and accessing those services. So I'm happy to report after 3 years that we really got this structure up and running. And here's what it looked like. And at the beginning, what we were really challenged with by the funders, I think, was how can you work in a way that is going to mean that they don't want to, they don't want to keep having to increase the funding. That's really what the subtext of all of this was. And so we were really challenged with, how do we, as a community, pool our resources so that we can expand what's available, include more people, without it costing more. Does this sound like a familiar kind of task or challenge that we're all being given all the time by our funders? And so, recognize I'm a real pragmatic person, so I thought, yeah, well, this is true. This is the way the world is going. We're going to have to work with this, so let's do it. And let's study it and let's see how it can work. Well, we created this structure where I thought, okay, well, if funding is going to diminish, then our power and our role is going to diminish. We have to increase the capacity of our community to take leadership roles and to be invested and interested in being a full partner in how we're going to continue to meet the needs of our older adults. And so you can see in this structure, we've got South Vancouver Neighbourhood House in that corner. And we're kind of behind and on the outside of where the seniors are in that structure, so that we can kind of bring the resources in from behind by employing the staff, doing the outreach and recruiting the volunteers and overcoming those barriers to make sure we're being inclusive, building the partnerships, sustaining the communication tools, and coordinating the evaluation and the funding requirements. All those kind of technical pieces that is what we do best as an organization. And then on the other side, you've got the interagency committee, which is all of those partners that we went out and worked with. We formed a group of staff so that they could come together and begin to talk about, well, how can we pool our resources so that we're not all out there doing our own thing, and maybe we're working at cross purposes, and maybe we're all doing the same activity and we're not really complementing each other. How can we come together in a very systematic way so that we can do more with what we have? And in the center of the structure, you have the Seniors Hub Council. And that is a whole group of seniors who've come together like a board of directors, but they're not a board because this isn't a legal structure, a community of people, of older adults, who are doing the real brain work behind this operation. They're the ones that are going out there, assessing needs, talking to their neighbors, bringing in their friends, making the decision about what needs to happen so that the people that they know are going to be able to access these services. Identifying what are the big issues in the community we need to address. And in our neighborhood, transportation is really big. I mean, being in Europe, it's like, we just can't believe it because you can hop on a bus, a tram, a train, and get anywhere you want to go. It's not like that in Vancouver. If you don't have a car, in many areas, you can't get anywhere. So transportation's a big issue. So advocacy became a real key part of what the hub wanted to do, what the seniors wanted to do. We want to make a difference around these things. And so our job as staff was really to get behind that and support that and not be out front and leading. So this all sounds so easy, and it was a lot of work. Most of us work in a very competitive environment with other community organizations, so we had to really build trust that we weren't out to just sort of get all the funding and, take over the world. We had to really work very hard to build a collaboration that meant that as South Van Neighbourhood House being given these resources, it could be viewed and was viewed that we were doing that on behalf of the whole community and that the outcomes would be better for all of us. And ultimately it was. And we found that you can't just go out there and start a relationship and then walk away from it. It's continuous. So we're constantly, as the lead agency, keeping those relationships going, making sure that we're reaching out to new populations of immigrants and refugees coming into our neighborhood, that we're staying on top of, what really needs to, with some oversight, needs to happen to build a strong collaborative network. So what have we found after 4 years of doing this project? Well, what we found is that the hub plays a very important role in nurturing leadership with immigrant and ethno-racial minority older adults, and that they want to be engaged as problem solvers and leaders. They want to bring their knowledge and skills into the community and to be supported in doing that, and they're really excited about it, and you'll really pick that up when Shelley talks about her her work. That the collaboration structure really does reduce competition between agencies when you have that opportunity to build trust and to exercise that trust and to keep relationships board to board happening between agencies. That trust is developed at the board level as well as at the senior management level. One of the pieces of research we did was we looked at how our agencies deepened their connections with each other as a result of the hub. I don't have a diagram of that, but when we started the project, we had 1 or 2 lines kind of showing how each of the different agencies collaborated with each other. By the end of the 4 years, the lines were like this, connecting us in so many different ways. So we went from collaborating on 1 or 2 projects to collaborating very intensively on lots of different projects. And so we saw that as a real success. We also showed that in our evaluation that we reduced the isolation of immigrant and other vulnerable seniors. And when they come to work together, they learn together. And this was really, I think, backing up some of the findings that Sean and Mew found, was that this intensity and this frequency of coming together and pitching the responsibility and the level of involvement we wanted to a very high level really engaged people. And really, they had new ways to connect with other newcomers. It wasn't just about, well, what is your food and what do you wear and what do you cook for your kids? It was, well, you know, I think this and I think about this way and I think we should do this way and really connecting for the first time across cultures towards a common goal where they as older adults were addressing issues of concern to all of them, and that was very exciting. Finally, a huge benefit is that we're able to scale this project out and bring the voice of seniors into the policy domain. And we've have a seniors advocate in British Columbia, a new position, and we were able to help our seniors. We're able to have an audience with the seniors advocate, and it was their doing. They said, we want to talk to this person. We want to tell them what's happening, what our experience is around the lack of housing and the conditions of housing. And so because the neighborhood house had that connection to that group of older adults, we were able to facilitate that connection, and they had that meeting. In fact, the advocate came out and met with us, our whole group of seniors, and it was a very exciting opportunity to do some advocacy where we weren't using our voice. So, you know, we didn't have to worry about biting the hand that fed us. We weren't speaking on behalf of others. They were using their own voice, and that was very, very powerful. So to show our commitment to the older adults in our community, we were really, you know, real estate is really valuable in Vancouver. I don't know if you've heard, we're like one of the most expensive cities in the world now. We wanted to show that we were really serious, and so we gave them a piece of real estate inside the neighborhood house, which is their place. And it might be small, but we are a small neighborhood house, but they have their own office, their own volunteer headquarters, and you know, there's a desk, there's a computer, there's a meeting table, and they can conduct their business, and it's their space, and we're not allowed, and we don't intrude on it, right, Shelley? So that's my piece, and Shelley's going to come and talk about the kind of deep work that she does with the seniors to build this capacity in our immigrant community.